burning desire. Based on the cool experience of the North, written and adapted by Tenebris. The first advice I want to give you is that if one day you have the opportunity to work in a department store, take advantage of it. It's a real hell, especially for people like me. A barrio girl with Rapunzel-like hair and a fiery heart. I have worked in all sorts of places. At first, I worked in a small bar. That is no longer, because it was demolished. They found out that they hired a young boy with a cherubic face and an apple-like bottom, freshly picked from the tree. During those years, I discovered what I liked. And I'm not just talking about what you may be thinking. I liked making the most of myself and looking my best. Long hair, rosy cheeks, painted eyebrows, in the morning programs, and that have everything prepared. At least I still remain natural. Then the worst thing that can happen to a sweet soul creature like me happened. My dad returned from the North and scolded me. I remember that my life has been hit a lot by men. My face was burning so much that I even thought it was going to explode. He told me to stop fooling around and find a real job, that he was going to kick me out of the house. I would have gladly left, even though he never contributed a penny for the bread. In those years, I was still very on the roadside or under the bridges. I ended up trimming my hair, chipped my nails, bought dress pants and white shirts. However, the fake eyelashes were impossible to remove, and not even a divine or devilish power could make me take them off. In the end, even my dad left me alone. I filled out some applications at Tony's and started visiting the stores in that city, which looked more like a dirty little town. The only stores worth visiting at that time were the newly arrived Copo Canada. They required you to arrive well-groomed, perfumed, and dressed. Inside, it smelled good like sweets and new shoes. I left the application just in case, and at that very moment, I was interviewed to take charge of the perfume department. From the start, I noticed that the manager was looking at me quite badly, after being bombarded with so many questions, including whether I had any health issues. They ended up hiring me. I was very happy to leave there because I naively thought I would make several friends. During the first week, I realized that they were all unpleasant people who, more than colleagues, were vultures always waiting for the opportunity to mess with you, to look good with the manager. Moreover, that old man was quite delicate. You couldn't even leave a smudge on the display. I was already thinking of quitting the position when we received the news that the manager had a health issue and they had to hire someone else. A freshly trained person, ready for the role. When I saw him, my goodness, I almost fell into his arms. The man was muscular and manly, with a Hollywood actor's face. His name was Felipe, and he at the gym. Even though I was smitten with him, I was hesitant to talk to him. I needed a moment of greater confidence to start winning him over. The other girls didn't waste time. That's how they were, leaving lollipops or candies on his desk, wearing low tops or unbuttoning their blouses to off their assets. Oh, sisters, what could I do but flutter my eyelashes like a fan to mesmerize him with my gaze? But it turns out he was always immersed in his work and paid no attention to any of us, not to me or the others. Everything started to change the night I dreamed about him. It was a beautiful dream where we touched, kissed, and burned with passion. I woke up still, feeling euphoric and emboldened. That gave me the courage to find a way to approach him. In those years, it was I took my turn and went searching for oceans that could assist me. There was a forum where people shared their formulas, but it wasn't as big as those found nowadays. I read about pink candles, honey, sunflower seeds, and rose petals. I bought everything and inscribed our names with a pin. Every night, I had to light the candle and request for our lives to unite and not separate. I said it with great devotion, but it didn't work. Felipe kept ignoring me. With each passing day, my desire for him grew so much that I found it hard to conceal. I would blush a little and look at him cheerfully or smile provocatively, but he didn't notice. However, the others did. They laughed among themselves and said, "This crazy woman even thinks she'll win over the boss. Ridiculous." 2 bandits were collecting the Virgin's pearls in exchange for a spell, and I felt the need to loosen my savings at that moment. I wasn't too worried because Felipe was earning very well and could fulfill my whims and cravings. But once again, it didn't work. I was very upset because they only stole my money. I couldn't find out where it had gone, and at times, desperation took hold of me. My mom would say that I had caught the love sickness, but destiny had a different plan for me. More like a blessing. One afternoon, I accompanied my mom to the market to buy vegetables and meat. For the week, it was my day off, and things were not going well, as I wanted to sleep in late. Since my dad was out, I had no one to help. I was strolling among the clothing and snack stalls. On top, she was wearing heels and a skirt that could catch even the most challenging of individuals. They smiled warmly and told the others to leave me alone, that they should learn from me, as I always happily attended to customers. Then he shook my hand firmly and placed it on my shoulder, patting me and letting me finish my meal. That day, I returned home, feeling really happy. I think everyone smiled at him. And wished him a great night when I got home. I thanked Pamba and gave her more sweets than usual. I cleaned her up, put on perfume and flowers, and that night I dreamt of him again. I thought it was the beginning of my fairy tale, but time passed, and we didn't go beyond a greeting, a smile, and nothing more. We hadn't even held hands, not even accidentally kissed. When my ended, I went home with tears in my eyes. I didn't even want to have supper with my bun and coffee, which was a habit I had since I was young. My mother asked me if I was sick. I replied that yes, I had been hit hard by the love sickness. My dear mother stroked my closely cropped hair like any other man, and told me that I had to get used to it, because surely, throughout my life, I would have many disappointments. Those who want guys like you, my dear, just use them for fun, and then throw them away like old rags. Take care of yourself, compose yourself, and find a woman. Inside, I was boiling with anger. My mother's words struck my pride. I told her I didn't feel well, and that I wanted to go to bed. She left the room. I jumped on the bed the next day. I woke up early and went straight to the internet cafe. It wasn't yet, so I had to wait with my arms crossed and my head tucked into a flannel sweater to keep the cold out. After half an hour, the guy arrived and opened up. I left early to have time to research what I wanted. The only thing I could find at that time was information on those forums and blogs where people shared their knowledge. I read several positive experiences with Pomba Gira, but none of those testimonials shed light on what I wanted to do. Since I was already desperate, I dared to write to see if anyone would give me advice on how to tie a man's heart to mine, making him obey and desire only me. I hurried to the man in the van to ask him to let me off at my stop. Quick, I entered the room without greeting to hide the things, and then went out to have dinner with my parents with the best possible face. No one asked me anything about my change in mood. My mother didn't talk much if my father was around, and he never showed much interest in my love life. I imagine he doesn't want to listen to nonsense. As he used to say, I said good night to them and went back to the room, this time locking it because I didn't want my mother to come in without asking. Something important to mention is that the strongest favors to Pomba Gira have the requirement of allowing yourself to be possessed by her. The prayers sit together with what you eat, and the candle smoke slowly put you into a trance. When I completely let go of her, I knew there was no turning back, taking a leap of faith. All I can say is that you feel a lot of energy circulating within you. In this trance, I asked the lady to make Felipe desire me, to not think of anyone else, and to fully surrender to me. In that trance, I felt compelled to do many things I don't normally do. Dance naked, raise my hands, and move them like streamers. I didn't know when I fell asleep, but I dreamt of her. Pomba Gira was dancing in a fiery place. I knew it wasn't hell because I felt no pain and heard no terrifying screams. She danced sensually to that, seemed otherworldly. Nothing happened. I just watched her dance, but one night, my wish finally came true. It turns out there was an inventory at my store, and since all the others were stuck up, they ended up complaining that they wanted to leave early to go home. But I stayed behind to talk to Felipe. I think the perfume section was the least selling at that time, but I didn't care. The truth is that it was a boring job. We were both alone, and I noticed that Felipe was tired. I offered to buy him a beer. He looked at me with big eyes. Next to me, and replied yes, since I am not foolish. I brought two. The heat of the alcohol got to both of us, and then it went down to our groins. We kissed, and what I dared to experience in my imagination finally happened. That night was the beginning of romance we took advantage up to now. The whole body would vibrate when he embraced me with his muscles. No matter how tough he pretended to be, he never hurt or injured me. Those were really good moments for me. However, at the same time, I started to realize that all that tension was becoming cloying. The gossipers in the store wasted no time spreading rumors and gossip. The boss had turned into a flirt, claiming that I had captivated him with my crazy ways. I was no longer interested in Felipe. Initially, he would suggest that we hide our encounters, but he was the one who sought me out first to lock ourselves in the warehouse with a door between us. The day he finally confessed that he was in love with me didn't excite me as I had expected. I even thought that what I liked about the mannequin was the challenge of getting him to in the store now. He looked for me outside and offered to give me a ride home. But most of the time we got sidetracked. He treated me with tenderness without losing his dominant role. We ended up sweaty, with the sheets wet, and very hungry. Felipe asked for food and then hugged me, saying he had never felt this way with anyone, not even with his own wife. Hearing him talk about her made me feel like a lion about to attack. I couldn't stand her name or her rich girl ways. Whenever he accidentally mentioned something about his wife, I took the opportunity to get angry and told him that if his wife was so important to him, then he should leave with her and leave me alone. Those words seemed to hurt him deeply. I could see it in his eyes, on the verge of tears, and in his throat, wanting to say something but in spraying. I used to purchase everything I wanted, and also received money for my weekly expenses. I allowed myself to be pampered and loved. When passing by those old women who initially flirted with Felipe, I always raised my head to them. That I had a partner. I had a great time with my boss for around 1 year. However, one day, in December, his wife came to the store. I was assisting a customer because December is a busier month, as people were looking for Christmas gifts and perfumes were among the most sought-after items. I was to a customer why citrus scents suited her better when suddenly I felt a sharp tug on my hair that almost twisted my neck. That old lady slammed me against the display case, and my head bounced like a bell clapper. The pain I felt in my neck spread throughout my head. Her bony hand had a grip on my hair and was pulling me to the hallway. With my head lowered, I noticed her legs and her prominent breasts. En résumé, in the store now, he looked for me outside and offered to give me a ride home. But most of the time we got sidetracked. He treated me with tenderness without losing his dominant role. We ended up sweaty, with sheets wet and very hungry. Felipe asked for food, and then hugged me, saying he had never felt this way with anyone, not even with his own wife. Hearing him talk about her made me feel like a lion about to attack. I couldn't stand her name or her rich girl ways. Whenever he accidentally mentioned something about his wife, I took the opportunity to get angry and told him that if his wife was so important to him,